collecting for a long time. Some of these numbers have changed, but I promise you they haven't changed significantly. Even in this day where we have a wave of states legalizing the recreational use of marijuana, there are still people that are still imprisoned for both using or selling marijuana and being Black or brown. There was a fabulous article that came out in the Chicago Reader, I believe it was. The title of the article is the thing that really moved me. It said, everyone knows that everybody smokes marijuana, but only Black and brown people get arrested for it. And that was the truth then, and it had been the truth up until the legalization of recreational marijuana. There was no retroactive effort to let them out. Now, maybe some things are changing because of COVID, but any changes are very recent. So this gift that keeps on giving, this 3/5 compromise, this is, prisons are the modern day 3/5 compromise when you start to look at voting patterns. Oh, switch to the video, good. I put this in here to remind me. All right, now guys, I'm gonna try something that I'm not sure how to make it work. So I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna stop sharing for 2 seconds, and then I'm gonna come back. Okay, where am I going? What am I sharing?
On the share screen, there's a little thing at the bottom left that if you click on it, it makes the sound better.
Okay, let me see. Share screen, a little thing on the bottom left, share computer. Perfect, thank you. All right.
Sharon, when do you want us to ask questions?
You can interrupt and ask questions at any time.
Okay.
We're just family. I told Dick, I said, I'm not sure that this video thing is gonna work, but I'm gonna try and see what happens.
Sharon, what you can also do is you don't share yet right now. First find the video and then share. That makes it usually easy in my experience.
Perfect. Okay, will do. So let me stop it. I'm gonna start the video.
Yeah, because what it's gonna do is then it's gonna ask you to pick the video that it was already on top of the screen. It's gonna prioritize that one when you get the choices of what screen to share.
Okay. The thing that I don't like is, okay, here we go.
State Assembly District 114 as it was drawn after the 2000 census. Because District 114 is located in the corner of the state, it is one of the clearest examples to show how prison-based gerrymandering changes district lines. The district was supposed to contain about 126,000 people, and according to the census figures, it does. But the district only meets its required population count by claiming more than 9,000 people incarcerated in prisons as residents of the district. Without using prisoners as padding, the district would need to add 9,000 more residents to meet population requirements. But where can the district find more people? We know that the district can't invade Canada and can't annex Vermont, so the district can't expand to the north or east. Also, districts need to be contiguous, and New York State avoids making districts that split county lines. Therefore, this district can only expand in one direction and must include these two towns. This would cause a dramatic wave of line changes across the state, changing every district in the state. As you can see, prisons have a big effect on how districts are drawn.
Okay. Now I'm gonna show you guys another one, if I can figure out how to get there quickly. Okay.
Sharon, what were the requirements that she was talking about in terms of population?
One sec.
We're in Anamosa, Iowa, where a man got 2 votes and won a city council seat. He wasn't a candidate. He didn't vote for himself. He went to work one day, and his wife and his neighbor voted him into office.
Well, the mayor called me first. Just asked me if I would be willing that I had 2 votes.
The census counted about 5,500 people here in Anamosa, so that means about 1,374 people per district. In that election, nobody was on the ballot as a candidate. 3 write-in votes were cast, but 1 was for a candidate who didn't live in the district. The other 2 votes went to Danny Young.
I said, well, I'd give it a try.
The problem in this election wasn't voter apathy. It was a lack of voters. The district includes Anamosa State Penitentiary. Prisoners can't vote, but the U.S. Census counts them where they're locked up. There were 1,321 prisoners counted here, so 96% of this district wasn't allowed to vote. Each of the city's other council districts had 25 times as many real residents as this one. So in effect, if you live next to this prison, you had 25 times as much influence.
Having one person represent 58 people and another person represent 1,500, 1,300, you're not getting equal representation.
Also, it means a very limited pool of potential candidates to serve on our city council.
If you're a legislator, you want a prison in your district. Perfect district from the perspective of an elected official would be your house and a large prison, because as long as your spouse is willing to vote for you, you're guaranteed re-election. The question of prison-based gerrymandering is a new question. Some people didn't notice that prisoners are counted in the census, or they didn't question what could be done about the problem. There's 7 New York State Senate districts that would not meet minimum population requirements without using the prisoners as padding. Districts are supposed to be based on population, but when prison populations are used to pad certain legislative districts at the expense of everybody else, we have a situation of representation without population. The Census Bureau counted people in prison at home, this problem would be over.
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, sorry guys. I just wanted to just share that really fast, and now I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. But Michelle, you asked a question.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what the minimum population was that she was referring to. And this was with respect to the first.
You can manage your team's work easily with Monday.com.
Hold on.
Just go to Monday.com and start tracking any project or workflow in minutes. Yeah, minutes. What? You don't.
That's the end of you. And that's the end of you. Okay. Let's go back. Sorry, I apologize, guys. But like I told Dick, it's just family. So I can do it again. But you guys helped me to do a better job.
Oh, so Sharon?
Yeah.
Does the prison population count as 3/5? Do they still use that rule?
No, they don't count it all in some states. And that's what I'm going to show you guys. Last time that we had the census, excuse me, I'm trying to get back to my PowerPoint. Last time that we had the census, I think I must have closed it. Last time we had the census, the state of California did not have any laws against prison-based gerrymandering, and the state of California, which imprisons more people than any of the other states, none of our state prisoners had an opportunity to vote, but they were all counted in the counties where they were imprisoned instead of Los Angeles County, which is where most of them came from. So it's basically Los Angeles and San Francisco and San Diego is where most of the prisoners are coming from. But the rural communities are the communities that benefit from the numbers. So yeah, I'm calling it the modern day 3/5 compromise. But the truth of the matter is that it's, in some sense, it's worse because they're counted full, not 3/5, 5/5. So in some sense, it's worse. The only benefit and the big difference is, unless they're serving life, they do get out eventually and go back to the state that they came from. But they, I'm on my way back now. Here we go.
Is this PowerPoint available to us or?
Yeah.
Good.
Anything I do, I will send to you guys.
Okay.
Sharon, what about the people who are in for failure to have bail available? They haven't been found guilty. They should have the right to vote, correct?
They should, and that's what the ACLU has been working to achieve, but currently they don't.
Well, assuming that states wanted to provide them the right to vote, how do they do that? I mean, do they bring the poll watchers in and set up a place for people to vote, or what happens?
You know, I don't know. Dick and I were working on a committee when we were working on criminal justice committee at the ACLU affiliate, and we have not worked with them for a couple of years now. At the time that we were working with them, they were trying to work out the details, but there were teams of people that were trying to get petitions signed to change the law in California. And to the best of my knowledge, they've been unsuccessful. I think that they were looking at it two different ways, via an initiative or via having the state legislators change. But as it stands right now, they still can't vote. But the state of California no longer counts the prisoners where they are imprisoned. And thank God that happened. There was a piece of legislation that was introduced by Mike Davis, and I'm gonna say maybe 12 years ago, because he's been out of the state assembly now for a few years. He was the one that initially introduced a piece of legislation, and it eventually did get adopted. And so the state of California is no longer one of the states that counts its prisoners. So when the census is taken in the prisons, they're counted where they came from. So here's the momentum is building. The states that, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so the states that are the deep red are the states that now have laws that prohibit prison-based gerrymandering. But as you can tell, it's not the majority of states. It's only, what is this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a little bit of, looks like Connecticut is getting pretty close. The little dots that you see, like Texas has a lot of these little orange dots, those are counties, cities, and school boards that have confirmed to have avoided prison-based gerrymandering. But the states themselves that have done nothing are in white. And then the other states that are yellow and various shades of orange are kind of looking at it, but only the 5 or 6 states that are in red are the ones that have just outright prohibited prison-based gerrymandering.
I'm sorry, Sharon. Let's go back to the other slide. Okay, so those counties that have, and school boards, et cetera, that have decided that they're going to count prisoners, how are they doing that physically?
I don't know, but I'm gonna take you guys to a website where this website is the Prison Policy Initiative website. These people are phenomenal. They do some serious research. Most of their research comes from governmental agencies like the, CDCR, which is the Correctional Department, something or other. Each state has one. Most states keep this data, and organizations like the Prison Policy Initiative takes the data, they do reports, they do research, and they provide a lot of good graphics to help you to easily consume this data, because it really is overwhelming. If you notice, it says that the counties, cities, and school boards confirm to have avoided prison-based gerrymandering. And then there's also state law that prohibits or discourages local governments from engaging in prison-based gerrymandering. So discourages, that sounds like a little weak word to me, but I don't really know the details.
Okay.
But I'll give you at the end. So here are the census projections for 2020 and the congressional reapportionment. So the census is still used for congressional reapportionment, but it's also, and that's the way it was established back in 1790. But since 1790, that census data is used for literally hundreds of other reasons. And I have a list of about 50 that's at the end of this presentation. The state of California is the state that had the most, and I think we have 53 right now. We may lose some. They're not sure because these are just projections. The dark blue are states that are gaining 3. So you look at Texas, it's going to be gaining 3. Well, we all know the politics of Texas. You see, this is really essential. This census data is really essential for lots of different reasons, but nobody wants Texas to get more powerful. Well, except for
Texas is changing too. The demographics are changing.
The demographics is changing, but it ain't changing fast enough for me. And it sure isn't changing fast enough for those people that are on Texas death row. But yes, you're right, it is changing. So the Census Bureau counts the incarcerated people as residents of the towns, though they are barred from voting in 48 of the 50 states. So Vermont allows their prisoners to vote. And I don't know what the other one is. There's 2 states that allow the prisoners to vote.
Huh.
Oh, Dick said New Hampshire. So 48 of these states that they can't vote, they get counted in the counties where the prison is. So it's definitely taxation without representation, or representation without representation. So here are some of the ways that census data is used. Drawing federal, state, and local legislative districts. Drawing the districts. This is how they decide the size of the district, the shape of the district, planning for hospitals, nursing homes, clinics, direct funding for services for people in poverty. So can you imagine all the people that we were losing out of Los Angeles County that were being counted in other counties? Those other counties were getting these benefits, and Los Angeles County was losing these benefits. Decisions about the infrastructure, building bridges and roads, and these kinds of decisions are based heavily on the numbers of people in these various districts. And I've got several pages of these. I'm not going to read them. I'm just analyzing military potential. I'm going to send this presentation to you guys, show you the link where I got it. This is the prison policy initiative. They have an excellent guide for ending prison-based gerrymandering for state legislators. They have like tons of information, but this just shows they have these booklets, they have graphs, they have charts. So I'll share that with you, and that's all part of this presentation along with the links. Oh, and that's it.
Good.
Sharon, I was thinking that who would have standing to bring a suit to try to end this? And I'm thinking any taxpayer in California might well have such standing. Has any kind of suit like that been brought, as far as you know?
You know, as far as I know, I was thinking when I looked at the 15th Amendment, and the 15th Amendment says that everybody who is a citizen has the right to vote regardless of their previous involuntary servitude. And I thought, I wonder if there have been cases that have been brought with regard to prison, like in Florida, the ACLU was successful in getting formerly incarcerated people, getting them back, getting them re-enfranchised. It's been an extremely effective way for the right, and the right, it's so important that we understand that the racial component of this makes it very attractive for the right, because everyone knows that Blacks typically vote 90% Democratic. So if you're putting big chunks of them in prison and then disenfranchising them in some cases for the rest of their lives, you just got rid of a big voting block that now you don't have to worry about them. So the ACLU was successful in the case that it brought, in the case of Florida. However, when Trump came in, somehow, and I don't know the details on it, that's, if somebody wants to look this up, you can, that Florida thing's been overturned. And so they're back to disenfranchising formerly incarcerated people.
Right.
This is, yeah, it's a huge issue. So now that I brightened your day, does anybody, you know, that's me. That's what yeah, yes, Bob.
Go back to the, oh, sorry, go Bob.
Yeah, I remember that Florida basically got in with procedural rules of registering and so forth because the Florida power does not want the blacks to vote and does not want the prisoners to vote. And so they blocked it, but it is a state referendum that was passed. And I think that in the long run, the backers of that resolution will prevail, but it's not, it probably won't be this election.
No. Well, you know, I've been following the Prison Policy Initiative. I don't know if you guys know my backstory or know why this is one of my passions. So I'll just tell you briefly. It'll just take 30 seconds. I was raised by my mother and my father, but my mother had a best friend, and they're still best friends, except that my mother has Alzheimer's now. She doesn't remember her best friends anymore. But she had a best friend since kindergarten. And my mom and her best friend both got pregnant at the same time. They were teenage moms. I was the product of that, my mother's pregnancy, and my mother's best friend had a boy, and he was about my age. And he and I were raised as if we were sister and brother, because my mother's best friend and my mother were together all the time, and so the kids were together all the time. And his name was Robin. And Robin and I were raised very similarly. Our parents had similar values. We both had our fathers in the home. And when we turned 18, I left New York and came to California. He went into the military. Honey, can you mute everybody? And so
except Sharon. Sharon is muted.
Unmute Sharon.
yeah, I unmuted myself. Okay, so he got out of the military, honorable discharge, but he couldn't find a job, which is not uncommon for young Black men. Then he got wrapped up in what was going on at the time, a quick way to make money. He started selling drugs, and that's the truth, he did. But he got caught for selling drugs, arrested, got out. But then years later, he got caught in a home of someone who had drugs and had guns. It was not his home. I don't know if it was his drugs. I know it was not his gun. It was in Washington, D.C. It was during the drug czar, mandatory minimums, and yada, yada, yada. So for amount of drugs that in their house, which was, I guess, for personal usage, the size of the tip of my pinky, they tried to get him to cop a plea. He refused. He didn't know about mandatory minimums. He ended up getting sentenced to 23 years. So I started to write him. At the time of his arrest, I knew nothing about prisons, yada, yada, yada. My 20-year letter writing relationship with him taught me a lot. I finally went to visit him at Leavenworth Federal Prison. I had to fly to Kansas, and that's where it was like blinders came off. And I saw, this is a return to slavery. I didn't know how, I didn't have the language for it, but I started doing research. So I've been following, and I have contributed to the prison policy. By the way, my friend passed away there, so he never did get out. He ended up being there for just about 20 years, maybe 3 years shy of his release. He died. He died from poor medical support and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, so this is really one of the many things and the injustices about this country that fuel my passion for understanding why things are so screwed up. So that's it. Honey, you can take everybody off mute now. Or you guys can unmute yourself if anybody has a question. Paloma, you have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, but you can go first. I can go after this.
Michelle? Who? Chris, you're muted.
Oh no, Dick. I thought Dick raised his hand.
Dick has to unmute.
Did Dick raise his hand?
Paloma, go.
Oh, okay. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah, my question for you is like, I wanna know. You keep thinking the three-fifths compromise, right? Like, other than prisons, or in which this is, it has evolved to now, to today. Like, in which way do you think is the worst iteration of that is hidden from the public? Because I saw a long list, you know, the military, like I didn't know all of those. Like I was shocked by some of those. I knew some of the details, but I didn't know to what degree. You always want to know exactly what is about the prison complex that they're using, but to really know the extent of that, that's how you know why they keep it, right? So I want to know, what do you think are the biggest hidden disastrous ones that we should be most aware of?
You know, for me, it's the biggest thing is the actual transfer of dollars. Now, I wrote a piece, and I'm going back to my piece. I'm looking at it right now because I think in my piece it quotes the trillions. I'm not sure if it's trillions or billions of dollars that are shifted out of urban communities. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Data gleaned from the 2020 census will be used to help direct $1.5 trillion per year in federal funding for programs like Medicare, Medicaid, Head Start, Title I, National School Lunch Programs, and on and on. But it's a total of $1.5 trillion. And I got this information from the federal census page. So the biggest problem is the money. It's a shifting of money, which causes the compromise and the disintegration of our infrastructure. So when we're looking at our roads and, you know, people can, I always say, if you see something happening in the Black community, understand that it is not only impacting the Black community, it is going to impact everyone. Case in point, in the state of California, with the university system, it used to be that we had more people in universities than we had in state prisons. Sometime around 2009, that shifted, and we had more people in prisons than were in universities. And if you look at, there was a corollary between that and how much funding was going to universities and how much funding was going to prisons. And you could go to universities back in, let's say, the year 1990, and like my kids graduated, you know, my kids are in their early 40s. So they graduated from the university. My son, they both went to private schools, but back when they went, you could get the classes you needed. You know, you could get through school in 4 years. A lot of people can't get through school in 4 years because they can't get all the classes they need because the university systems
Can't
are
afford
underfunded. Yeah. Well, the reason they're underfunded is because we put so much money in prisons. It's not just quite that simple. You know, I'm oversimplifying it, but it's not that far from the reality. When we take money out of other programs and put them into prison, we get nothing good.
What legislators are doing something about this?
Well, because it's a state-by-state thing, I just know that California is cool. So I was like, okay, great. California is done. My job now is to write articles about it. And I don't know which legislators, but the Prison Policy Initiative gives you all of that website. And when I send you, I'm going to send you 2 documents. the PowerPoint presentation that I just showed you with links in it and my article about the census and prison-based gerrymandering, which is just a 3-page essay.
Sharon, I wanted to go back to the historic piece back in the very beginning of your presentation. I know that it was not always the case that women couldn't vote. So it seems to me that that was on a state by state or region by region basis. When did it become, or if you know, when did it become just across the board that
Right.
women couldn't vote and we needed the 19th Amendment?
Well, I'm not sure, you know, the 19th Amendment came in 1920.
Right.
But
so
and
at some point, the states were pretty unanimous about just denying women the right to vote, in the same way that they were unanimous about eliminating the Chinese. I mean, there was a time when when Chinese vote, and state by state, they've eliminated that.
Yeah. So the only thing that the only way I can answer that.
Boil them whole. I'll do it once they're boiled.
Yeah, we can hear you, Jim. So the only way that I can answer that is that resistance generally happens first, and then you start to see change in policy. So wherever you see pockets of resistance, like during the suffragettes, what they were doing, that's where you see policy change. It's the same thing that's happening with the Black Lives Matter movement. Whenever there's been policy change, the changes haven't happened out of the goodness of their heart, or, you know, they somehow became rational. No, people were in the streets. And if people are not in the streets, there won't be change.
Okay.
Question about when you showed us the 3 amendments, you said the 14th Amendment was the one that had been most challenged, and why is my question. Why?
Right. Oh, that was so exciting for me in law school. So, you know, when we talk about something being civil liberties and civil rights, so our civil liberties are the first 10 amendments. And the first 10 amendments talk about what the government cannot do to infringe upon the rights of the people. But the government that they were talking about was the federal government. The states could just do anything they wanted. That's why the southern states were so in favor of states' rights. But it wasn't until the 14th Amendment, where the 14th Amendment said that we have equal protection. It's called the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, that takes all of the federal rules and places them across all the states.
Oh, okay.
And that's why within the states. So now the states can't say, oh, it's okay for us to discriminate. It's okay for us to make people be slaves. It's the federal government that can't do it, but we're a state. We can do whatever we want. The 14th Amendment says, no, that's not true. Bob.
Yeah, I just want to answer Michelle's question a little bit more. I put on the chat a link to a map. 15 states had granted women of full voting rights before passage of the 19th Amendment. And another bunch of states, the states that had full rights were mostly in the west of the Mississippi, not all, but mostly. And a lot of northern and central states had right for the presidential election, and pretty much the solid South had no voting rights for women. And the last state to ratify the 19th Amendment was Tennessee, and it was a cliffhanger.
Thank you.
Good question to Michelle. Michelle, why don't we make some kind of proposal to the League of Women Voters California Criminal Justice Committee to do some of this educational work that Sharon's provided? And we have a meeting, there's a meeting Tuesday. So let's talk about that later.
Okay, and I'm assuming, Sharon, you'd be available to do an intro for them so that
Absolutely.
they can get, okay.
Absolutely. Jim, you have to unmute, Jim.
Yeah, just real quickly, in downtown California, you know, the prisons, the ACLU provides vote by mail forms for the prisoners there. The prison doesn't do it. I mean, that's the important thing. But ACLU, the prisons, there's a woman that runs that, and we give them vote by mail. That's how they vote on prison.
Great. Thank you, Jim.
Hi, John. Are you here?
Yeah, I knew the ACLU had been working on it, but I didn't know what the outcome was.
All
That's
right.
great.
Bye.
Paloma, you have to unmute.
Yeah. Sharon, what do you think should be done right now that is not being done? And we just had the D week. Do you feel like they address any of this problem at all? And what are they doing to address? Who is the closest in this party to be addressing this problem?
I would say that the Black Caucus of the Democratic Party has tried to address this, but the Democratic Party as a whole has not put a whole lot of emphasis on voter oppression. This is a part of voter oppression, voter disenfranchisement. And that's why, I don't feel that they give a full-throated support for real democracy. They know about this.
So it sounds like they need to be pressured, because the thing that I did notice that they kept mentioning in the convention is vote. You gotta get out to vote. You gotta get out to vote, because they always say, the Republicans are the ones that are in the way of voting. But what they're not talking about is very, very specific ways in which people of color are being disenfranchised.
Right. Well, the Democratic Party, if you look at Bill Clinton and Joe Biden, who supported this legislation that helped to make the prison population explode in the first place. They're invested in keeping this story going about why it's okay to incarcerate so many Black and brown people. They're invested in that. The private prison corporations trade on Wall Street. The organization, and Bob, Bob, you're doing some research on this? Because Bob, I found some really good links for you about the private prison industry. And so,
yes, they send them to me. I'm trying to look at the overall incarceration problem and everything that's related to it.
Okay.
Holistic point of view, but yes, I'm grateful for anything that you or anyone else who knows about it sends it to me.
Well, I'm going to tell you, this prison policy initiative, I can give you 2 sites that are fabulous. This
I've
is
already got
probably
their reference.
the most comprehensive.
Yeah. Yes, I have that. I have that reference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my point is that the electeds, they need somebody paying for their campaigns. Just follow the money, and you see why they don't make a big fuss.
And to follow up with that, you're talking about the money. It is the tendency to be a monopoly usually in this country. Like things like start consolidating. Is there a clear understanding of who are the big names here in the private prison complex that we need to be aware of? Because one of the biggest problems that I see with this particular issue is that you can follow the money and you can follow who write laws, but you don't necessarily know always who is in charge.
Right. So what I'm trying to see is it possible for us to not look at individuals so much and look at the system? Because as long as we look at individuals and say, oh, it's these bad people that did these bad things, we don't see all of the holes in the system itself that help to facilitate these bad things. We have laws that are set up that are supposed to protect the citizenry. Well, our laws are not protecting big swaths of the citizenry. Doctors take an oath of first do no harm. Our legislators should also take an oath of first do no harm. There are communities that suffer because of the laws. The laws don't protect and serve them, like the police don't protect and serve them.
Right, and I think I am saying the same thing. I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about, like, for example, like we don't name enough. I mean, I feel like we know more about the legislators, but we don't necessarily know the corporations behind the prison complex. Like, I feel like part of the reason why this is also goes so like under the radar is because we don't put these connections, we don't shame them enough. We don't know the names like of the corporations behind.
It's knowable. It's knowable.
Getting the most money out of it.
Yes, yes. It's Paloma.
I cannot name them all of the time. So
let me tell you
love
something. So you know, when you go to these big conferences, like if you're an IT developer in Las Vegas, there's this annual IT conference that has a huge, big convention center where they sell everything computer related. Or if you're a plumber, there's the National Plumbers Convention. Or if you're this or that. Well, for prisons, there's a National Prison Profiteering Convention. It's not called that, but you would not believe the companies that rely on prison labor, and the construction companies, the companies like Victoria's Secret. There are some companies where every single thing they produce is produced by prisoners. And that includes the state of California. So it's knowable, Paloma, but it requires research. Paul, Bob, I'm sorry, Bob.
Oh, okay. Maybe to take a little different tack on that. I think that the private prisons are terrible and frightening and morally wrong, but they're still not the majority of what goes on in the prison. So you need to keep that in mind. And what I identify as I'm studying this thing as the real culprits here are people I've come to call the tough on crime crowd. And I think that politicians generally like to accept tough on crime. It's political wisdom that gets you votes. If you stand out there and you say, I'm going to be hard on crime, that gets you votes. In fact, that's one of the big things that helped get Donald Trump elected president, is he said that over and over again on his campaign. He talked about criminals and enforcing them. And the fact is, and cops and cop unions are very strong that way, and associations of cop unions where they put together the political money. There's something in California called PROFA, that's a collection, a membership collection of police unions, and they give lots of money to candidates, and they have a lot too. Obviously, anybody working in this area, although it's not a huge population, they're politically very powerful. And district attorneys, when they run for office, almost every one of them is going to tell you they're going to be tough on crime. And that's what's measured. So you have to look at that. One of the things I think happens is that the tough on crime people try to think that the criminals are others in some sense. The tough on crime people are the we, and the criminals are the they. And the problem is that's not right. Over 1/2 of people in America has a family member who spent time in a jail or prison. And I'm one of them. I haven't spent the time myself, but I've had family members, a couple of them, spend time in jails or prisons. That's what happens to men, boys, right? They go and do that all the time. But there's 1/2 of the American people have that kind of contact. And so what we have to understand is to run our government for 100% of the people, and not just the tough on crime crowd. That's the kind of thinking that's been pushing, and the populists, you know, the Trump backers are all in this tough on crime thing. And so what we need to do is say, all the other people, we count for something. All shut up.
Chris, you need to unmute. Chris is trying to unmute, Dick. Can you do it for her? Oh, she's just saying goodbye. Okay. Okay, any other questions? Okay, guys,
Yes.
so
I was gonna say the last question, Sharon. Remind me for the conference on the Left Coast Forum. We have this great speaker that spoke about this. Her name is escaping me. Talking about the history of prison in LA.
oh, Kelly Michael Hernandez.
Yes. Is she writing a new book on this?
She
she making
is.
a new? Can you talk about that and how it's connected to your work?
Yeah, yes. Kelly took some time off, and she's so sweet. She just called me the other day and just to say hi and see how we're doing in the quarantine. And she said her book has been sent to the publisher, and it's still in, you know, it's not in the final form yet. They're editing and they're doing stuff with it. But yeah, her book, she's got a new book that's coming out soon. I'm not sure if the book focuses on, I think it kind of might focus on Mexico. I think that might be the focus of it. Oh, it's on the Mexican-American War. Yeah.
That's interesting because Paloma remembers her from, the city of inmates and the incarceration portion. And I remember her talk about what I consider the fair housing portion, where you've got all these people coming into the Western states and how the discrimination is so different from the Southern version of discrimination. So we need to bring Kelly in to talk about both of them.
Yeah. Jim, you have to unmute.
Does anyone know the name of the woman with the ACLU that does the voting project in downtown? And if anyone knows her name, we can tell everyone here at the meeting. Not now, but in time, we can go down there and we can help people register to vote and prisoners in downtown to vote.
That's a great idea. I know it used to be Esther, but Esther left. I don't remember who.
That's who I was thinking of.
Is it Jess? Is it Jess Barris? Because Jess Barris took over the criminal justice. Dick, I hope you're part of this meeting. Is it Jess Barris? Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Dick is looking up the name of the person. He's fussing at me.
Sharon, what happened to Esther? Where'd she go?
She moved to New York.
Oh.
And she got really like a dream job in New York. And she was there. She left like maybe 3 years ago. And she was there for a couple of years. And then I heard recently that she now is in Northern California, working with the ACLU California. I'd heard, that's just a rumor because I haven't confirmed it. We are Facebook friends. So I know she's back in California, but I don't know what she's doing now. She was a real asset, a very interesting kind of person, a lot of guts.
Yeah.
She really knew her way around downtown, the prison downtown. We would she would walk right through. The guards would make way for her, and
yeah,
it was great.
Yeah, and she's this tiny little thing.
Yeah, but
look like the wind could blow her over.
But fierce.
Yes, absolutely fierce, absolutely fierce. I admire people like that. I'm in these battles all the time. I'm always in some kind of battle, and I always feel like I'm going to collapse. I always feel like I can't do this. I'm not going to be successful. I don't have the strength. And I look at other people, I thought, how do they just go on and on and on?
And you think, if not you, who?
Right. Jim.
There's one story about her we were all trying to get in there, you know, to do the work. And the guards were saying, "Oh no, I think it's been canceled for today." And the guards were just making up, you know. And she said, "Don't listen to those. I'll be right there."
Yeah, that's Esther. Bob.
Yeah, I had a couple of announcements. Is it now a good time to make a couple of announcements?
Yeah.
All right. The first one is about the lawsuit in Pomona, which was filed by the ACLU. And if you're all familiar with it, I won't go on. Okay, I'm going on. Nobody said they're familiar with it.
Go on.
So Mo, who works with Chris, drew up this complaint, and it relates to AB 392. And basically what the complaint says that the city of Pomona, and especially the Pomona Police Department, used government funds, even though it was just a tiny little amount, but nevertheless, they used government funds to pose what is essentially an anti-AB 392 position. In other words, they're against the new law requiring a necessary standard before force is used. And so he's claiming that that's wrong, and he's asking, ACLU is asking that the court make a declarative judgment saying that Pomona is wrong in this. But the big thing is Pomona is using a Lexapol supplied policy on use of force. And if that lawsuit prevails, then Lexapol is going to have to change their policy all over the state of California. And that's going to make a huge difference there. So it's a terrific lawsuit. Second thing is, Chris noted before I did, and she's not here to defend herself, but I'm only going to praise her. She wrote a letter to the Pasadena Star News about the McLean shooting, which was just here a few days ago. And McLean was a black man shot in Pasadena by Pasadena police here. And he was, let's just say for the sake of there's video evidence, let's just say that he had a weapon tucked in the back of his trousers, because there's a question of whether or not he drew it. Most people say he did not. The police say he did, but he was running away. And he was running away, and the policeman shot him in the back and killed him. Okay. And the chief of police in Pasadena, who, by the way, is a member of the board of directors and board of trustees of the Pomona Police Department, right? Nepotism in there and so forth. He said, "Oh no, this is okay." That's Perez. But I think that this ought to be the ACLU's test case, because it's ready right now. And when somebody's running away from you, it is not necessary to shoot him. He's not threatening anybody else. It is not necessary to save life. It definitely falls under the category of the AB 392, and it ought to go to court. So I just wanted you to know about those two things, which have got me very excited recently.
Yeah, Bob, I remember when I finally did recall what you were talking about with 392 and Lexapol. I mean, we have the ACLU working with the Pasadena CCOP group, which is basically the group seeking greater oversight of the police department. And we also have the Lexapol policies. And I was envious. Why didn't you start here? You know? So yeah, it would be great if we could, and there's some other stuff going on that Chris is right in the middle of. You know, we've never really acknowledged how the work that she's undertaken really pulls us all together, because there are all kinds of things that really relate to the policing and the other work that she does.
Great. Well, you know, whenever you see anything like that, sometimes we don't have the time to sit down and write about it, publish it. But if there's any way to share anything in social media, you know, even if you're just sharing just 50 words, put it out there, then other people can pick it up, as we have to rely on others to help us get these words out. Any other questions?
Sharon, do you get CCOP information?
I do not.
Wow, you should. It is tremendous.
I
The
bet it
amount-
is.
Oh my goodness. I think it'll be great if you can, you know, just be a part of it. Like what Michelle was saying, we had a meeting, Mohammed was there and other people, and it is tremendous information there, and what it is that happened, you know, in this case, and it is continually happening.
I know.
All of the tear gassing of the police department and riot gear in front of the city hall without any provocations or anything, on peaceful demonstrations, and it is really bad what it's going on. And Mermel did send a letter to CCOP, to one of the persons involved with CCOP, explaining to them that that the person was running. So, and he had some, you know, in his pocket, he had a gun. To me, it looks like, you know, the young people, how they wear their pants, you know, kind of hanging. So he was definitely hanging on to it. You have seen the video, haven't you?
I have not.
What, do you have access to it? You want me to send it?
No. It's just, you know, Uni, what happens to me is, maybe it's because it's so close. Maybe because I don't have a single Black man in my life that hasn't been harmed by police. Sometimes I just can't take it.
Yeah, no, which I understand, because right after that, and right as I am talking to you, I'm looking at this young man holding his pants, running. Completely, nobody would say, I am at harm's way of this man. Completely. How can the police or Chief Perez, I had great respect for him before, is completely eliminated. I cannot see that man straight in the face and say hello to him, because it's really sad. Chris is doing a tremendous job, and a lot of the other people also, like Juliana, is doing tremendous work also. And I just hope that this lady from the Black Matters, Richards, what is her name? I believe that you guys don't like her very much.
Jasmine.
Jasmine.
Abdullah.
Yeah, Jasmine Abdullah. No. The other one. Richard.
It's just, they're the same person.
Same person, yeah.
Abdullah, I thought it was an attorney. And this
No, so Jasmine Richards.
Jasmine, okay.
Yeah,
Jasmine, I'll tell you, Jasmine, I just pray to God that she has a target on her back. Something is going to happen to that girl. And I just feel it, and I just want to leave it at that.
I know. We have to pray. I mean, there's some people that they're compelled to behave in the way that they do. And only thing I can say is we just have to pray for them.
Yeah.
I have to leave soon, but thank you, Sharon. I posted in the chat. This was a really, really good presentation. I'm so glad we recorded this. We're very lucky to have your work here.
What do we have next week?
Don't ask.
Oh, it's a Uni's mystery?
Oh, okay.
It's mystery. Okay, let me just tell you why it is a mystery. It's you know, with all of the things that you guys have in common, you know, the fighting for the rights of other, I feel that I am nowhere close to what you guys do. You know, the only thing that I can express to you is other people's jobs and what they have done, and what I have done with my life. You know, because many people feel that it's so much contrary to the general public, Latinos coming to this country, you know, and my story is so much different, and I don't see why is it not that much in common, my life story, you know. But anyway, so I'm gonna share my life story. So that's
Awesome.
pretty much.
I can't
I
think
don't
of
know if
anything more
anybody of you have
interesting.
heard it, but not that much interesting, but a different story that what the general public sees related to Latinos. So there.
Okay.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, that's for sure.
Thank you.
I was thinking the other day that all of us, I mean, we're all doing this work, but our slant on this is somewhat different. You know, coming from Philadelphia, having been born in the United States, people I have migrated from the South, but I don't know my history coming from Africa. So, but that's a little different than Sharon's story or anybody else's story who happens to be African American. So we should probably spend just a little time sharing a little bit of our history with each other.
That would be good. I was recently chastised because half of my family's from the Caribbean. My recent history is from the Caribbean, and some Black woman told me that I'm not really a Black American. I'm not really an African American.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that.
Right, right.
You know what I became? I became Mexican after I came to this country because everybody would see a Mexican. I said I might as well just learn about Mexico, you know. And when I encountered the Chihuahuita school, I became from Chihuahua, you know. So I had to change and mold to what the expectation of the public is, you know.
Yeah.
And Kamala Harris is a Caribbean too.
Yeah, I know.
Jamaica, from Jamaica.
The Big Island.
And then her mother is from Chennai, that place where my husband is from.
Uh-huh.
So it's interesting. Interesting.
But the thing that's exciting to me about Kamala Harris, and I didn't know it, I had sort of, well, she's a district attorney, so I hate her, but it's just so hard to be a district attorney. And I think she tried to do good things. But what I think is great about Kamala Harris is that she graduated from Howard. And Howard is a very special university, very special in our country.
That's right, it is. Okay, guys, well, I guess we're done for today. That's
Thank
our
you, Sharon.
coffee Klatch. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dick. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.
Bye, Rebecca.
Bye-bye.